Hello, everyone. What's up? And welcome back to the Capital Stack. Today, we have an amazing show for our listeners. Our guest today has leveraged his professional engineering and construction management experience to become a successful multifamily syndicator. So our guest for today is Brent Ritchie. Brent is the founder and president of EnRitch Investment Group, Inc. He has over 15 years of experience in engineering, construction, and project management, which kind of gives him a unique domain knowledge in this space. Brent's latest projects involve the ownership, management, operations, and development of apartment buildings worth over $240 million. You heard that right. So he's very, very experienced in mid to large capital projects. The other thing about Brent that's pretty cool is he has experience buying assets in another country. So you really don't hear that very often. And so with that, Brent, welcome to the show. Very happy to have you here and happy to share your story and your mission with the world. So why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Awesome, Brandon. Thank you very much. It's an honor being on the show, and definitely look forward to the opportunity to share, add value. I still see myself as a guy who puts on my pants one leg at a time, and and just. It's grew up in a little small town on a farm, far, far away in Canada. And, just, I guess, had different inspirations and aspirations of what to do with my life. And I just always saw myself doing something, I guess, beyond farming, maybe to my father's chagrin if he's hearing this. It's been a really good journey. That kind of had me going through engineering, working specifically on some really cool projects globally, some neat award-winning projects, and bringing that experience. Really, it was almost like, okay, I'm an engineer, I'm trading time for dollars, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I saw there was more, and I saw there was, really creating a future and creating legacy, or creating something more than just being retired, and then hopefully you saved up enough money before you die, right? To make less money you do later in life than you do now. And so it was never, I didn't like that specific philosophy and that plan. And so that's what had me going out on a course, I guess, and trying to find out what is the right path and fit, and where is that right entrepreneurial journey that makes sense. And so that was really that. Okay, so I'm working engineering, and I'm looking, part-time. I'm working, checking in the morning, looking at some properties, and I'm checking in the afternoon or in the evening, kind of before the kids wake up, after the kids go down to bed, and 3 little kids at that time. And so really, I guess, got into the multifamily space, and really saw that it's a huge opportunity to be able to leverage and really create scales and systems. And so, that's I know that's a lot that I just packed in those that's couple sentences. I mean, and we can dive into anything or kind of unfold a couple of those topics, but it's been a really good journey, and very, very fortunate and grateful to work with some of the partners that I've had, and
awesome. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious. So did you start off on the multifamily side, or did you kind of transition into that? Or
Great question. Right out of high school, early university, I did had a business working for a couple student landlords, and so student slums. We made them nice, but we worked with a bunch of student housing and kind of fixing up, renovating, doing what we call now turns, right? Apartment turns. There you just trashed out, all the previous stuff that they left, and then got them ready, renovated them, fixed them, cleaned them, a lot of cleaning, and then you learn the filtering tenants and screening and leasing process and landscaping and all that stuff. So really kind of without owning it, but working around apartments or working around student rentals. And then fast forward, I get into engineering, don't really touch anything in the space for quite a few years, but always kind of had that in the back of my mind. A lot of people make some what is it, like 90% of the millionaires are made through real estate, right? So
Yeah.
there's some phenomenal systems and processes that you can already leverage in this multifamily sector. And so in school, right, you were taught you couldn't copy, right? You can never copy anyone else's work.
Mm-hmm.
Where this is like, especially in the multifamily sector, it's very much hey, this is what I've learned, this is what I do, right? And until you're actually getting to negotiating and down, on a specific project. But aside from that, it's a great space, a very abundance mentality, and specifically the Sunrock ecosystem that we're part of just has a great kind of mindset philosophy. And that is really what allows us to copy other people's notes, right? To look and see what other people are doing, what's successful, and apply that. And so back to your question, just very little, I guess, some experience way back in the day. And I guess turn of the millennia, would we say that? Back then, and then really, fast forward 2017 is when I got into the multifamily sector.
Okay. Yeah. It's and you mentioned kind of really it's modeling, right? It's this concept of success leaves clues, and I do think this is definitely a space where it's wide open in the sense that you can without question you can say, okay, here's what someone's doing, here's what this person who I admire, whose results are apparent, here's what they're doing, and you can pretty closely model your practices, your business, your approach after them. Now, like you mentioned, every deal is different, every market is different, every team is different, but you can get 85-90% of the solution just from saying, what is that person doing? How are they negotiating their deals? How are they building relationships? How are they evaluating deals? So that's an element of the business that I appreciate as well, is kind of even though at a certain level it definitely has its complexities, I believe at the broad 30,000 foot level it is simplistic in nature. So it's just that how can I model what someone else is doing? So I like that you mentioned that kind of that copy paste.
That's right. That's right. All the things you're taught not to do throughout school, and now you're like, hey, this is how the game works. And actually, a lot of people make money consulting, right? Which is really copying, hey, this is what's worked in other businesses, and this is what we can help you do, right? So
that's a good point. That is kind of all that management consulting is, in a sense, right? It's just this sector, these top companies do this, and then over here we can apply some of this to this, or take pieces of these companies' approach and then kind of frame it around a unique quote unquote unique approach for this company. So there's definitely some opportunity to have that same sort of view here. And I like that, Brent, you mentioned you saw something different for yourself other than trading your time for dollars. You had a different vision when it comes to what you wanted to do with your life or with your path. And so you pursued that. And, I talk about mindset a lot on the show, and vision is an important aspect of that, which is what you were talking about. It's, I saw something different for my life. And so I pursued that, but you had to have you almost have to have like that vision of it being, materializing, because without that, you really don't know what you're aiming for. And so it's really impressive that you had that and then pursued that, and now you're there. I kind of love that perspective. One question I have is, so you worked on it a bit in college and got some exposure to it, but when did you make the connection or the transition to say, okay, this is actually a business. This is actually something that makes it fit for me? Because, and I asked that because, when you're in school, you kind of your focus is on other things. And so not everyone makes that shift. Some of us were exposed to things that really could have been a powerful path for us, but not everyone makes the connection to say, this isn't just something to pass the time. So when did you make that connection to say, this is something I actually want to do long-term?
Yeah, geez, that's a good question. And I think it goes back to, when I'm working my job and I'm, y'all call it W-2 in Canada, it's like your T4. And so you're working your full-time job, and it was almost like I knew, I don't know, I've always been a bit more entrepreneurial, right? And so it was always some kind of doing something for myself, and I guess having the control kind of over your destiny and your future and where you're going to the best of your abilities. And so that really kind of had me always kind of searching and trying a couple different things, and some multi-level marketing stuff, right? And a couple different businesses, some that were successful and some that were were great ideas and concept, but didn't translate to paying the bills. But always still, I guess, working full time while I was pursuing these other endeavors. And so it was always like, hey, what do I want my life to look like? And you probably had that question asked too. It's like mindset is such a big thing, right? It's when I was younger, I guess my engineering mind would really give me some practical tools of what I need to do, but until the student is ready, the teacher won't appear, right? And the articulating activators, right? It's like once you're aware of a Toyota Avalon, right? Then you're like, oh, I don't know what that thing looks like. But once you're aware of it, you're going to start seeing them everywhere because they've always existed. You just haven't paid attention. And so, it's just kind of like, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And what do I want it to look like? And so I was looking at different pre-2017, I was looking into different franchises, looking into different businesses that you could just buy, go to the business job fair type of thing, that it's like all these different franchise opportunities you can get involved in. And it was like, okay, I don't want something I'm just trading time for money, that I've got to plug in 60, 70 hours a week, right? But I want more like scales and systems and something I can do from anywhere. So you just need internet connection, and you're good to go, right? And so it was almost like, okay, my framework of what I was looking for was something I could do from anywhere. I didn't have to actively be involved in. And then basically once you get a system set up and running, right, now you're just overseeing that whole system and making sure that it's operating properly, but you're not involved in the nitty-gritty day-to-day. In our case of multifamily, your tenants don't know your number, right? So if their toilet's not working, you're not getting the call. I was mildly handy, but not, enough. I could do enough damage with some hammers and other stuff that I knew. At best, I was like a 6 or 7 out of 10, and if I really refine my skills, maybe it's a 7.5 or 8, but it was never something I was super gifted in. And so it was, kind of combining, I guess, skill sets and aptitude and capabilities and, kind of management of things on a bigger level that really brought this together and ultimately, kind of finding a proven process system that now you're just going back to copying other people's notes. And now you're just seeing, hey, this is what's been done. This is, people that have been in this space that will help you through it, and really being able to kind of go forward confidently, knowing you had a great team of people, and multifamily is very much a team sport. And so, is that finding that criteria and finding that focus and finding that right group, and really that's what helped me explore and find this space and no,
incredible. It's I agree with everything you said there, especially the mindset point, because I think that as engineers, it's we typically look for kind of the blueprint, the how, the steps, and I have also found that that can actually only take you so far, especially in this space, because you without the mindset and without the some of the things that come with having the motivation, the why, the things that really drive you toward a purpose, and then sort of connecting the how to that. I find that without the purpose, without the right mindset, you really you don't have the full picture needed to move forward. And that's something that I had to realize and sort of take inventory of it myself. I think I might have mentioned it before in the show, but there was a point where I looked at my calendar, and it really was not, it was empty with respect to real estate investing, the things that I wanted to do. And so and this is despite having the blueprint, so to speak. So I did a ton of reading, podcasts, and, all these things, did the research. And I'm also, like you mentioned, we're both in the same ecosystem. Now I will say I didn't join the Samurai group until after I'd done this analysis that I'm referring to. But I looked at my calendar and said, well, it's completely empty. And so I haven't filled it with the things that are important to me. So even though I had some of the blueprint, I didn't have the mindset needed to say, let me take action and let me fill it now with things that are important to me. But once I established that, then I joined the group. Then I filled my calendar with meetings and meetups and virtual meetups and in-person meetups and conferences. Then I started to reach out to more people and take action. So I just, I believe that's something that can't be understated. I think that for folks who are in sort of the more technical fields and engineering fields, it can be more challenging for us because, we're so used to thinking about the steps, the blueprint, the how, the recipe, the process, as opposed to saying, well, okay, but now that I have the process, do I have the mindset needed to make the connection? So, I really respect kind of that perspective there. And
that's gold, man. And it's almost like you've probably heard that narrative too. It's like, in order to have what I want to have, I need to become the person I need to, that will be able to get that. And so it's like, that's the difficult journey, right? It's those 6 inches in between your ears, right? That is probably the most difficult, the longest journey that we'll ever take. And it is. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I think Jim Rohn, I like to reference his quote sometimes, but he had one where he said, if someone gives you $1 million, best you become a millionaire so you get to keep the money. Because if you don't have the mindset to say, okay, well, I have this $1 million and now I'm a millionaire, so let me do things with it that will help, with preservation of capital growth, then that money is going to be gone. All right. So you don't have the right the mindset then to go with it, then the results just won't be what it should be. So let's talk about ecosystem. So we've mentioned that a few times. And so what's the impact that the ecosystem that it has had on you, on your results? I'll just let you kind of speak on that a bit, your thoughts.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I would say that's everything. You could do homes and you could buy single family homes and maybe quads and build up a little bit more. But without that group of peers, kind of you're seeing so much more. And the ecosystem is really what gave me the confidence to be able to go and buy, our first project was 11.635 million. And to be able to go and buy this, put together investors, find investors that were willing to take a chance on us on our first project, and be able to, ultimately invest and join in on this. So I would say it's really, the ecosystem was everything, Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. I think that, for me, it unlocked some things for me and my mindset, my perspective, because I just didn't, before joining the group, I really didn't have any direct exposure to certainly a large group of high performers who have gotten past that hurdle of saying, can I even do this? All right. I think a lot of us get stuck at that barrier that we put up for ourselves to say, I don't know if I can do it. And I have all these fears here, the million things that can go wrong. And then how can I do this? So, for me, one of the things that has really benefited me is being around a group of high performers who are doing it. It's not a question of how or whether they're going to, it's just which opportunity are we going to pursue? Because they've already had, the momentum is there, the track record is there, the support is there. And it's more about which market, which opportunity are we going to go after? And so I love that doubt is almost by osmosis, that doubt is removed, right? Because you're around people who are doing it, and who you can learn from,
and a lot of them, right? And it's like, you can easily feel like a small fish in a big pond, right? And you can easily see like just, man, people are closing deals nonstop. And even right now in this uncertain time in the market and rising interest rates and the volatility, it's like, you could be cowering in fear and just kind of stay and don't do anything and just sit back on your laurels. But you see people still, finding ways and making it happen. And so there's always always a time and a place and how to buy. Now the counter is of that, the people's fear, I can't do it, it's too big, right? So my first one was a 120 unit building. And it was like, you had to break some paradigms, right? If people are used to playing Monopoly back in the day, the single family homes to the hotel, right? So you're thinking that this succession you need to make, and really how you don't need to start in that, right? I beside my own home, yeah, I didn't buy single family, I didn't start in that journey at all. And so really it's yeah, it's just something that yeah, it's that limiting belief. And it's more, the question is, not if you can do it or not, is how can you do it, right? And what do you need to learn, and who do you need to become to do that? So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, self-limiting beliefs really can just completely just kind of paralyze someone from taking action, just completely stop them altogether. So I couldn't agree more with that. And I'll say that for, this is, I'll speak quickly kind of to passive investors as well. So one of the things that, as a, quote unquote, serial passive investor that I've enjoyed about being in ecosystems, but also being investing in deals that are presented through ecosystems like this, like the Samurai Group, is you have this sort of a self-policing aspect to these groups. And it's something that that you really have to have an appreciation for, because none of these groups want to be tied to bad actors. So if there's someone who is, misallocating funds, or if they're doing something underhanded, or if their practices are not above board, they're ousted quickly, okay? Because it is to the benefit of the group to completely operate above board, to have a tight handle on deal analysis, to have firm relationships with the professionals that will help them, close the deal, operate the asset, again, being above board and executing the plan very well, and then closing on a high note. So that's why I target, even before I joined the group, for me, my focus was, how can I invest in deals that have this sort of this protection, I'll call it, this additional layer of protection that you might not find everywhere. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Just kind of speaking to maybe the passive investors.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a key thing. And, it's like, for me, especially anybody that's been in the ecosystem for long enough, it, like you said, 100% that does it, vets out, and it kind of screens out the bad actors. And so they're not going to be around in the group long, or everybody in the group is going to know. And so you definitely have that part of the process, that it's screening out, and it's, kind of weeding out those people that you wouldn't want to partner with, buying deals, or B, want to invest through. And so it's quite easy to ask around and find that, right? Where if it's just some random person that you met on the street, it's, how do you know, right? You don't have that kind of, they're part of this ecosystem, they're part of this group, they're part of this, you just have whatever they're telling you versus, what you can kind of find out independently. So, and that's probably the engineering mind that is more technical and analytical and skeptical, right? I think skeptical is probably it's a strong attribute. So
it is. I mean, it's also, kind of understanding the potential downside, because it's not always something that's quantifiable. Sometimes there is a, qualitative aspect to it, to say, well, how can I understand the additional risk factors? So I think that's one of them. So I'd like to get your thoughts as well. So I mentioned in the intro that you invest out of the country, right? From relative to where you lived at one point or now. But can you speak on that? What are some challenges that you've come across with investing in a market that maybe is a farther distance away than normal?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's I was first started in the Toronto area in Canada, right? Investing here into the US. And so, I think it was another podcast I was listening to, and I can't remember who it was speaking, but she had done business in multiple countries. And she was like, so much is just a fear. It's a fear of the unknown. It's a fear of, the uncertainty and how, what to do. But often it's 2 or 3 forms, or maybe an entity, that you need to do, that kind of allows you to invest in and buy and operate, in other countries. And so that was really where it was like, oh, okay, well, if it's just 2 or 3 steps, right, or maybe a couple forms or an entity, then that's a lot less daunting, and so that maybe gave me a little bit more peace of mind. And then really finding your professionals, in the multifamily sector. You want to leverage and work with professionals, right? Professionals in different sectors, whether it's your CPA, your cost segregation, your property management company, your lenders, whoever it is, your insurance, right? Everyone's kind of more specialized in their respective areas. And so you're working with those groups, those partnerships. And so that is definitely an important step. And so, yeah, it was just finding those professionals that knew cross-border, what to do and what entities to set up and kind of create a strategy and a game plan, depending on what you're wanting to do. And so both the people, and then realizing that, it wasn't that daunting. And I forget what it is, the stats on Canadians that own in the US, but there's a ton of Canadians that own investment property in the US, especially Florida, Arizona, Texas. So yeah, that's where it's like, okay, all these people have already done it, figured it out. There's definitely a process to that.
I see. Out of curiosity, is there kind of a local sort of a support, I guess I'll call it, group that you can kind of meet with folks and say, hey, what did you do to form this entity, and how did that go?
There was to some extent, but more they were single family homes, right? They maybe land or maybe some smaller apartment buildings, not as much to the scale of what we're doing. And so there was, and then through some of those other investors, I say, who's your CPA, who knows cross-border, and then found some introductions that way, and ultimately found the group that we've used based in the Toronto area.
Okay, so networking.
Networking. That's it. So it's it's like with anything almost, you're going to buy a car or you're going to find a mechanic shop. It's like you want to almost find those trusted references who can, kind of lead you in the right direction. And so, yeah, same thing with CPA.
For sure. So I wanted to also mention something that you talked about quickly earlier on, and this was about testing other ventures, right? And so I think you mentioned multi-level marketing as one. You mentioned there's a few other things that you mentioned there, but you're basically finding your entrepreneurial path by testing a variety of things. Now, I can tell you that I've also sort of done various things like digital products, building an online course, these kinds of things. And for me, they were instrumental in finding the path that for me is my core focus. And I still have, various things. I mean, really, this podcast could almost be viewed as that, if I, depending on who you ask, they may say, well, drop the podcast and focus entirely on, syndication. But I enjoy this. I enjoy, sharing people's stories like yourself. I enjoy the exposure, so I actually have come to appreciate this. But I would say that there's something to be said for finding your path by testing, and you mentioned franchises as well, I believe.
Yeah.
So how did that help you, testing things out, as opposed to saying, let me only do one thing exclusively? Did that help you at all in shaping you?
Yeah. And that was really a Little Purple Book, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, 18, 19, whatever I was when I first read that thing. And it just, it kind of really sparked that path too, and it sparked me being like, okay, yeah, no, that's right. The mentality and the philosophy. And so it's like, I was always, working and, doing engineering and kind of had aspirations in that direction. But at the same time, having little side hustles or whatever else that I was trying to do. And so that really what you're talking about was, okay, I'm doing engineering, and then it's, what else, can you do? And especially life in Toronto, my goodness, it's so expensive. And so you're trying to figure out, like, how do I afford and how do I live here? And so, you go to your franchise shows, right? And you'd go to your different things, and you're kind of always exploring and seeing, where is a good path for that. Yeah. So that was really process of elimination. And then, yeah, some were just, entrepreneurial is just, what is it, Elon Musk saying, chewing on glass and staring into the abyss or something, right? It's like entrepreneurial is very much not an easy path journey, and not for the faint of heart. And so one was like, hey, we just saw an opportunity of what we could create in business, and so you're trying to take a concept through to, you know, clients and projects and everything else. And I think we had one project, I think we had two, but it was a lot of work and not much reward. So if my buddy Gary's listening to this, it was a great,
edit that part out.
It was a great venture working with him. But yeah, we did not make any. We did not get our Rolls Royce from that car, from that business. So
that's all right. Well, if nothing else, maybe it helps kind of thicken your skin a little bit, you know. Up.
Yeah, it did, and it was almost like, okay, I really want to find something that's more of a tried, true, proven system that I can kind of come alongside and join, and so that was very much kind of after doing that for a couple of years. Yeah, I was you know, definitely steered more in that direction. So that's good, and kind of, I guess, maybe now that you've sort of landed in something that really works well, it gave you kind of an insight as to, okay, I can tell that this is something that works, and that like you mentioned, it's tried and true. And sometimes it's one of those things that's deceivingly simple, but it's actually complex, and it just although as fundamental as some of the skill sets are, the upside is just huge from it. Yeah.
So
huge.
Let me ask you kind of what motivates you, I guess, about what's your why, I guess I'll say, in terms of, you know, investing in real estate. What kind of keeps you, what's your driving force to say, you know what, I'm going to keep moving forward despite the potential ups and downs?
Yeah, you know, that's such a good question, and honestly, that's probably the hardest question. And we went through a process a couple of months back with one of my coaches, and that was one of the questions too. And it's like, what is my why do I want to do this, you know? And so some part, what we alluded to earlier, talked about earlier, is like, okay, want to create a legacy, want to create future, want to, you know, not be not have less money later in life than I do now, right? I want to kind of keep building up systems and processes that continue to grow and perpetuate. So, but yeah, I think just having the ability to travel and give and share and really make a meaningful contribution in people's lives. And so you'll hear it in the multifamily sector, but it really is improving these communities and improving the people who live there, right? The people who are living and dying and getting married, and, you know, newlyweds and or going through, you know, multiple life events. And so yeah, it's just creating a great community and a space for them, right? So you get to serve your investors and create great return opportunities for them, and then on the other side, you know, you get to just have a lot of fun, you know, fixing up and renovating and making these communities beautiful places for people to live and that's safe for families. And so, yeah. That's
powerful. I think that, you know, it's one of the few ventures where it really is an all around just a win, right? You build up the community in terms of kind of the local community appreciates having an asset that's, you know, been renovated and updated, and it looks good, has good curb appeal. And then the customer, the community, the tenants that are there, they enjoy having a place where it's like, okay, well, this, you know, look at these new amenities, the interiors are updated, the exterior is updated.
Yeah.
And then also your business partners, it gets, you know, have a win when you get to add value, your investors get to win. So really one of those things that from all angles, it really does sort of uplift and just benefit everyone that's involved. So really powerful statement there. Let me ask you, so we're kind of getting close to close, and I wanted to get your take on an actionable tip. So there might be someone who's listening to this who's hesitating, and we'll say that we'll aim gear this more toward kind of the passive investors, right? So for a passive investor who is hesitant, wants to get into business, but maybe is a little bit uncertain. They want to invest, but they're not sure how to get started. What would you say is a way for them to just take one step that can help them get started today?
Yeah, I think, you know, kind of Brandon, finding people like yourself, right? Finding people like yourself that are, just have a great, trustworthy people and integrity and above board, right? You mentioned above board a couple of times, and that's important, right? And so as syndicators, as the ones putting these deals together, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our investors and really to uphold and protect their money better than us. And so really finding those strategic partners and finding those teams that really have that mindset, that philosophy. And then also it's just, okay, then it comes down to, so you got the team of people that I trust, that like and trust. And then so next you're looking at, okay, where's the markets, right? The markets themselves, you want to be in a market that's rising, right? Or in a market that's really strong. Your two biggest fundamentals, your population growth, job growth, right? Make sure those two fundamentals are strong. And then, so you got the team, you got the market, and then now the asset, right? Make sure it's an asset where there's truly a great value add. Hey, it used to be down here and we're going to bring it up, a level or two. Or it's just, it's just very much, it's situated in the right area, right pockets. You can't, you can buy one entire community, improve that, but if it's in the wrong area, you're going to be struggling, So it's really that sub-market where you're buying and operating, making sure that it is in an area that's, hey, you see a lot of growth happening around, right? And that rises that tide. And so that rising tide raises all ships. And so you want to be in that sub-market that's on its way up as well. And so the team, right? The team that like and trust, the market that's really strong, and then the sub-market, right? The area, the neighborhood, the community that's on its way up.
Absolutely. Those are the three pillars, I guess we could call them, of kind of a good deal, good opportunity.
Yes.
And I think you're right. It's kind of networking to find syndicators, to find operators who are active in the space, and then sort of evaluating, okay, well, what's their handle on those three pillars? So very, very important tip there. So Brent, really appreciate you being on the show. But before we leave, I did want to get kind of your, how can listeners get in touch with you or reach out to you, maybe ask you questions?
Yeah, Brandon, again, thanks for having me. Honored, and I appreciate the opportunity. If people want to get to know me more or connect with me, my website, www.enrich, investments.com. So enrichinvestments.com, or they can email me at brent@enrichinvestments.com.
All right. Awesome. Well, Brent, thank you so much. And we'll leave that in the show notes.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks. Thank you, sir.
All right. You take care.